Good morning, y'all. This morning we're going to remake our bread pudding, but this time we're going to do it with only milk, and instead of a 9 by 13, we're going to use an 8 by 8. Now, if you want to make a 9 by 13, you can just double every ingredient that I'm telling you today. So what you're going to need to begin with, you need a half a cup of sugar, 2 large eggs, 2 cups of milk, that's 474 milliliters. You're going to need a half a teaspoon of vanilla, 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. If you don't like cinnamon, you can leave that out. If you like fruit, you're going to want to put no more than a half a cup of fruit in this one. You can mix it up. You can add cranberries or dried cherries, walnuts, pecans, apples, anything you like. You can do apples and raisins. Entirely up to you. You're also going to need 4 cups of whatever kind of bread you prefer. I just put I put 8 slices of bread in the oven on 200 for 10 minutes just to harden it up so it feels stale, because this is not stale bread. Doesn't matter what kind of bread you use. You can even use biscuits. That's probably delicious. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to beat our eggs and our sugar together, because we want to get our custard started and we need it kind of creamy. Now, I have a hand mixer. You can use whatever you want, but I'm going to hand mix mine, and this is going to take a couple of minutes because you really want to get it creamy. So let's get our eggs and sugar mixed together first. Okay, y'all, we're going to beat our 2 large eggs and our sugar together. What I didn't say to begin with was that your eggs and your milk need to be at room temperature. Everything needs to be room temperature. You also need 2 tablespoons, 28 grams of butter, melted and then cooled down to room temperature. I think that's got a lot of the reason why people's eggs separate when you're baking this. Now, you can also use a water bath. I don't, and I've never had a problem, but just make sure your stuff's all at room temperature. So we're going to beat this now, and again, this is going to take a couple of minutes. Beat it on high for as long as it takes to get creamy. And there we go. This is the texture you're looking for. Just creamy. All right. Now we're going to add half a teaspoon, well, 3/4 of a teaspoon cinnamon. You can use less, or you can just completely omit it if you don't like it, and make yours a fruit or just a nut bread pudding. Half a teaspoon of vanilla. Two tablespoons or 28 grams of our melted butter. And then 2 cups. We're using whole milk. We're using whole milk because we need the fat. Now, you could actually split this and use a cup of cream, or you could use 2 cups of cream. But just remember, the heavier the fat, the richer your bread pudding. So you may want to make it several times and make it several different ways just to figure out which one you actually like the best. For this one, we're just going to keep it basic and use milk. Now I'm just going to whisk this all together. And there's our custard. Okay, yeah. You want to make sure your dish is buttered or sprayed with a non-stick spray. I just took a stick of butter and ran it through there. Let's get bread dumped in. Spread it out. And then, whatever kind of fruit or nuts you want to add them now. So I'm going to add to this one just 1 ounce or 28 grams of raisins. I'm just going to kind of put them all over. I think I put a whole cup in the last one, or a half a cup. But for this one, yeah, we're not going to use that much. This is actually equivalent to 1 box if you happen to have boxes of raisins. Small boxes anyway. And if you don't like raisins, just leave them out. But you can add any kind of dried fruit in this, any kind that you may like, or like I said, none at all. And then while this is cooking, of course, we're going to come back and make vanilla sauce. Here's our pretty custard. Now we're just going to carefully pour this over. Got it all in there. Now I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to press this down to make sure every piece of bread gets covered by the custard. Now, if your bread is really stale, you're going to want to let this sit around for about anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. It really depends. Because if your bread is stale and very dry, it's going to take some time for it to absorb this custard. If you put it straight in the oven, it's probably not going to turn out well. But if you have just day-old bread and didn't bother to, use stale bread, that's fine too. You can put it right on in the oven. 30 to 40 minutes at 350 degrees or 180 Celsius. And the way you know it's done, you can stick a toothpick in the middle. If it comes out clean, it's done. Or you can just kind of press your bread. And when you press on it, as long as you don't see this custard rising up in the middle specifically, you'll also know it's ready. So for mine, I'm going to let this sit here for about 10 minutes before I put it in the oven. I have a feeling this one's going to be delicious. Okay. Now, all right, so we're going to bake this, like I said, 30 to 40 minutes. And then about 10 minutes before it's ready, we'll come back and we'll make some more of our little vanilla sauce. For that, you're going to need half a teaspoon of vanilla, at least a half a cup of powdered sugar. Now, this is going to depend on how much topping you like. If you like a lot, then use a whole cup of powdered sugar and 2 tablespoons of milk. Just mix it together, but I'll show you in just a few minutes. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, y'all, our bread pudding's about ready. Now we're going to make our sauce to go on the top. This is a half a cup of powdered sugar, and to that I'm going to add a tablespoon of whole milk. And that should be all that we need. Got our sauce made. Again, that's a half a cup of powdered sugar, tablespoon of milk, and I put just a little splash of vanilla. If you don't like vanilla, you can leave it out. If you want more of this, then use a whole cup of powdered sugar and 2 tablespoons of milk. And here's our bread pudding. Nicely done. Look at the side until it's completely cooked. And again, we had no separation of the eggs. I just tend to think that that's probably using cold ingredients as opposed to room temp for everything. So now we're going to cover it. Just going to drizzle it on. Again, you can add as little of this or as much as you want. If you like a lot, add a lot. Entirely up to you. This is just your basic ingredients on how to do it, but you can make this so many different ways. I do recommend make it multiple ways. Use heavy cream, use half and half in milk, and just figure out if you like the richer versions to the basic versions, which is exactly what this is. There we go. Now let's cut into this sucker. Yeah, I should be using a knife, but I'm not. Look at that. Perfectly cooked, perfectly custardy. This is what you're after right here. Now also remember, if you do not like it chewy, you're going to want to take the crust off your bread. I like it chewy. Now let's see what it tastes like. Oh, that looks so good, and it smells so good. And it's really hot. Mmm. Oh yeah. Mmm. Oh, that's delicious. And it's not nearly as sweet as the last one, you know, with the sweet condensed milk. Again, I only used the sweet condensed milk that day because it was all I had. Mmm. I had milk, I just didn't have enough. Oh, that's good. Perfect every time. So here you go, as promised. Basic milk version bread pudding. Y'all try this one. I promise you this one's not even half as sweet as the last one. And it's so, I mean, the custard's perfect. Oh, by the way, I left this in for 38 minutes. Don't know why it ended up at 38 minutes, but that's how long it was in the oven. Mmm. Perfect. Mmm. Okay, y'all. Thank you for watching. See you next time.